Alright guys, how's it going? I am the Crown Clown, and today we're doing What If Deku was Cobra, Part 5. So, where we last left off, Deku was, beat everybody in his fight. President Mike was unknowingly carrying out an assassination attempt by Nezu, and he got a snake back. He met the Iron Dragon Slayer, Tetsu Tetsu. And at the USJ, Deku, basically just smacked everybody around and saved a lot of casualties from happening, or a lot of injuries from happening that would have actually happened. And he actually took out Nomu by himself. And Midnight has become Class 1A's teacher after Aizawa got fired. And All Might is now the principal at the school. So, there's a lot of different things, and I had you guys comment down below who you wanted to be the new teachers, and there were two that got the most votes, and that was number one being Gang Orca. So Gang Orca will be in, the story now. Going forward, he will be, Class 1A's new permanent teacher. Midnight was just stepping in and filling the role till a new teacher was appointed, but Gang Orca will be filling that role now permanently. Now, the second one is Mirko, the bunny hero. So, she's entered into UA, and President Mike is on suspension, but he will be back later on just because, he didn't really mean for a lot of the stuff that happened to actually happen. And it was just unfortunate events that actually led to it. However, All Might is bringing in one more hero to help with security and to increase the overall odds that the students are very safe. And he called in Endeavor to do that. And Endeavor accepted the job because it's closer to his son, and he can assure that his son actually starts using his flames, which is going to cause a lot of friction and a lot of, conflict with Todoroki there. But Deku, he's pretty much just had it with people. Him and Jiro are talking, but it's a lot of tension in the air with them still. So he's having to really just take a step back. But with that out of the way, let's get right back into it. And one last thing before we get started. I am going to be making a video that should be coming out either later today or early tomorrow. And it's going to be a video where you guys will see what ifs I have planned. And you guys will be able to vote for which one comes out first. But it will only be coming out after Sabretooth wraps up. And I will be bringing back Psylocke on weekends, so she will be an extra video. She's not taking the place of anything on the weekends. She's just an extra video that you guys will have on the weekends. So some days you will have 3 videos a day, others you'll have 2. So with that out of the way, let's jump right back into this with What If Deku Was Cobra, Part 5. So after that, USJ incident, they give the students time off. Deku, he's like, more time off? Please. I don't know what to do with my time as it is. So he just goes home and chills with Cabellios. And, Jiro actually knocks on his door. And she's just like, hey, can we talk? And he's like, you still want to talk? I thought we've talked enough, but sure, come on in. And someone else pushes their way into the room, Kaminari. And he was with Jiro because he wanted to talk to Deku and try to get him to stay away from Jiro. And, Deku looks at him and he says, I invited her in. I don't recall inviting you. And, Kaminari just gets up in Deku's face and he says, whatever, Cobra. I don't care what you said. I make my own rules. So you have to deal with that. And Deku's just like, um, who the fuck is this guy? And you better tell him to cool off before I put him in a body bag. And Jiro says, Kaminari, why did you come? And he's like, because I needed to tell him something. And Deku says, oh, Lightning Bolt wants to tell me something? Go ahead. What is it? And he says, I want you to stay away from Jiro. I don't need her getting infected with this poisonous mentality you have, or everybody's deluded ideals that you can magically reform, that you'll be better, that you can actually become a hero. You were with the Liberation Army. That's a terrorist organization, and they just let you go? Criminal record expunged? No, I don't think so. You still have to pay for that. And there's no way in hell you're getting near Jiro until you have. Which, means you'll never get next to her as long as I'm here. And Deku says, and how are you going to exactly stop her if she wants to come near me? You don't own her, she's not your possession. And you better stop talking about her like she is. Or else shit's gonna get real bad for you, real quick. And Kaminari, he's just like, well, bring it on then. I'm going to be going through a special procedure sometime soon anyway. So you better get ready, because after that, I'm kicking your ass. And, Deku's just like, I look forward to that. So please, survive it if you can. But this does pique his interest, because he can hear Kaminari's thoughts. And Kaminari's thoughts are like, I'm going to become a Dragon Slayer. Hell yes. And Deku grabs him by the throat and says, so, they're making a new Dragon Slayer, huh? So tell me, how are they doing that exactly? And Kaminari says, I'm under no obligation to tell you. And he says, you better let me go, or I'm going to send 6 million volts down your throat. And Deku just tells him, if you try it, you'll be through the floor before you can even realize what happened. And Kaminari doesn't, trust Deku, so he just smiles and says, yeah, right. And Deku puts him through the floor. And, Kaminari's picking himself up, and he's just like, what the hell just... And he looks up, and he sees the hole through the floor, and he's on the first floor, not my second, my bad, but he's on the first floor now, in the lobby, and, everyone's just looking up, and Deku says, I'll pay for it, and they're like, okay, and so, Jiro's just like, you two are so, just full of testosterone, why can't you guys just have a civil conversation for once? And Deku says, he came into my place, he started talking threats to my face. That's what happens. You don't come into someone's house and expect, to talk all that shit and not be put back down. I'm sorry, but that's not how this works. And, Jiro, she's just like, oh my gosh, what is with these two? And she just walks out and leaves. She just leaves both of them. Cabellios is hissing at Kaminari big time. Deku can hear its thoughts, and he's just like, yeah, I know. Dude's an idiot. So Deku pays for the floors to be repaired, and for the rest of his day, the floor is just getting fixed up. Like, he's not able to go anywhere until the floor is fixed, because he doesn't trust anyone alone in his house with Cabellios. Mainly because if they tried anything, Cabellios would kill him. And that's not something that Deku needs right now. So, Deku just chills with Cabellios, feeds him, eats some poison, just chilling, listening to music. And he decides to go for a run. His place is fixed, so he goes out for a run, getting in some exercise, and he hears music. And he's like, huh. And, he notices the voice. It's Jiro's. And he decides just to stop there and listen from a distance. And he can hear the pain in her voice, the tears, coming to her face. And, he feels bad. So he decides to leave her alone. He's not going to interact with her anymore. He's just going to be left completely by herself, and that's how it's going to be. So that way she's not suffering for associating with him. So he decides to head back home. Not even let her know that he was there. He's just gone. And, Jiro's mom saw him, and she knows about his hearing, so she knows that he heard Jiro. And even though that Deku knows that Jiro's mom saw him, he's not going to say anything to her. He's not going to, try to tell her not to say anything, because in his mind, he has no right to do that. So he heads home. Jiro's mom heads up to her room, and she says, Cobra was in the area. I'm pretty sure he heard you singing. And Jiro's just like, I don't care. And, Jiro's mom sits down there with her and says, want to talk about it? And Jiro's like, no, I don't want to talk about it. And she's like, are you sure? And, Jiro just says, yeah, I'm sure. Okay? And she says, sweetie, just talk to me. And that's when Jiro's dad comes up, because Jiro's kind of crying at the moment. And he enters her room, and, he sits down there, and he's like, come on, just talk to us. And she says, fine. What do you want to know? And they say, tell us what's up with you and Cobra. And she says, nothing. I'm trying to trust him again, but it's hard, and, Jiro's mom says, I know. And Jiro's dad says, well, he's a murderer. You shouldn't trust him. And Jiro's mom just looks at him and says, he only killed to protect our daughter, right? Or have you forgotten? And Jiro's dad says, no, I haven't forgotten. And she says, so what, you would have preferred him not killing and our daughter died? And he's like, no, God, no. It's not what I wanted at all. And she says, well then, what is it? Tell me. What would you prefer him to do? And he says, I don't know, damn it. Quit busting my ass. And she says, well, learn to see reason. And Jiro's hearing her mom talk like that, and she's just like, Mom, you never talk like that. And she says, sweetie, pull your head out of your ass. Like, that man down there has done nothing but try to protect you. Yes, he lied, but would you have really stood by him if you knew the truth? If you knew how broken inside he was? And Jiro says, what do you mean broken? She says, sweetie, he was a slave. He was sold off. And then he was used. He was always kept under surveillance. And you don't think that he would have felt used, empty, or broken inside? And Jiro says, I never... And her mom stops her and says, you've never thought to consider his feelings, did you? Always your own. And then you kept his best friend, his snake, from him for a solid week, or even longer. And Jiro says, so what, you're saying I should apologize? And she's like, that would be a nice start, because to me it seems like you're wanting him to do all the reforming and all the changing when there's stuff that you need to apologize to him for just as much. And Jiro says, I understand that, but are you sure that And she says, if you don't go down there and apologize to him, then I'm gonna beat your ass. And Jiro's like, what? And her mom's like, yes, I will ground you and beat your ass. And Jiro's like, Dad, and her dad just says, just leave me out of this. Every time I open my mouth, I get yelled at, so just leave me out of this. And, Jiro's mom says, that's smart. And, she kneels down there to Jiro and she says, look, I know I'm hard on you, but try to see things from his point of view. Okay? And besides, that Kaminari guy, I don't think he'd be a good fit for you. And Jiro says, what? How did you know? She's like, sweetie, it's all over your face and in your music that you're playing. Even if you're not singing, your instruments tell it all. And if I can hear from just your music, imagine how much Cobra knows what you're going through. And Jiro says, fine, I'll talk to him tomorrow. And Jiro's mom says, good. Now, back with Deku. Deku is pretty much just packing up his stuff. And, he's called for, how much an abandoned warehouse would cost him. And, he's surprised with how cheap it is. He buys one near the docks, and he hires some movers, and he moves all his stuff over to that abandoned warehouse. He gets his water turned on, electricity, and he's fixing up the place. He's turning it into his house. But he doesn't tell anyone where he lives now. So, him and Gabelios are just as far away from the city as possible, but still close enough to UA where he can get there on time. And, he goes out for a bite to eat. And, he's sitting at a restaurant, and, he knows the people there from his time with Redestro. And, they heard about him on the news, and these people are still nice to him. So they allow Cabellios in there with him. So Deku's just chilling with Cabellios, and, he notices this, older gentleman in there who's clearly has a mutation quirk, and he's like, wonder who he is. And, he's in a white suit, and the man sees him, and he recognizes him. So he says, this seat taken? Deku says, no, you're free to sit if you want. And the man sits down. And, Deku looks at him, and he looks just like a humanoid orca. And, yes, so, may I have your name, stranger? And he says, just call me Gang Orca. And Deku says, alright, call me Cobra. And he's like, oh, I know who you are. You're Cobra Midoriya, the man who almost got killed yesterday. And, Deku's not exactly yesterday, but yeah, earlier this week I was almost killed. And he said, oh, I know. I'm your new homeroom teacher. And Deku's just like, what? I thought Midnight, and, he says, shut up and listen, kid. Midnight was temporary. I'm your new permanent teacher. I know you got blemishes on your record, but let's be honest. Heroes aren't all perfect either. I know at least a handful of heroes that have done illegal stuff, and who've come back from it. So just because you were at one point in time on the wrong side of the law, doesn't mean you can't be a hero, and it doesn't mean you can't be a great one. And your weakness, I can help you with that. After all, I see a lot of promise in you, and you need to start training. And Deku says, what? For what? He says, the sports festival. And Deku says, I'm not allowed to compete in the sports festival. That was part of my admission here. And Gang Orca, he takes a drink of his sake and he says, that was the old rules. There's new ones now. You're participating because I requested it. And he's like, what? Why? He's like, you have a rival here, yeah? And Deku says, I wouldn't call him a rival, more like a pain in the ass. But yeah. And so Gang Orca tells him, that's all the reason you need to compete. You need to kick his ass. Set an example and show people you're strong, you can change, and that you're here to stay. You win the sports festival, no one will step up to you. No one can argue you have no talent, that you don't belong there. Because it'll show that you're the most talented person at this school, and that you have the power to back it up. And Deku, he's just like, huh. He's listening, and he's like, you're telling the truth. And Gang Orca says, using those ears on me? And He's like, sorry, it's a force of habit. Not like I can turn it off if I want to anyway. And, he's just like, trust me, you'll do fine, kid. And he asks him, where's he living at? And Deku says he just bought himself a house. Gang Orca says, I'm impressed. Not many students are living by themselves. Deku says, well, technically it's an abandoned warehouse, but I'm fixing it up. It's livable, at least. Gang Orca hears that and he's like, just livable? And he says, let's go by. I need to check up on your place of residence. And Deku's just like, what? Why? He's like, I'm your homeroom teacher. It's my job. Now, come on. And Deku's just like, fine. So, Gang Orca pays for his and Deku's meals. So now Deku's like, okay, I'm obliged to show you where I live now, since you paid for my meal. And Cabellios is, sprouting its wings, and Gang Orca's like, what? And Deku's like, oh, don't worry, we'll fly slow. But, Cabellios needs some exercise or else he'll just get fat. And this helps me get around pretty easily too. He's like, there was an old saying that, when snakes fly, now I've seen it all. And they're just like, yeah, snakes do fly now. But what else is new? And Gang Orca says, fair enough. So they walk down to Deku's house. Well, Gang Orca walks. Deku rides on Cabellios. They get there. And Cabellios, he's like, this ain't much. And Deku says, wait till you see the inside. And Gang Orca says, alright. Deku opens up the door, and Gang Orca steps inside and sees, Deku's got a bed. He's got, toilet, shower, kitchen, living room. He's got some furniture. He's got a TV. He's got running water, power, heat, AC. He's like, okay, this is livable. And Deku says, see, I told you, it's not much, but it's livable. Anyway, why don't you sit down, take a load off. We can continue talking. And he's like, fine, but you should meet the other hero. That's going to be one of the teachers there. And he's like, fine, invite her over. Just know, I ain't got no alcohol, so if you guys are going to try to be drinking, you got to bring your own beer. And, Gang Orca says, I'm done drinking. Wouldn't be right of me. And he says, fair enough. However, I do have snacks. Help yourself. So, Gang Orca, he's just drinking a soda, waiting. And then, they hear a knock on the door. Deku opens it and he sees this very toned, kind of dark-skinned woman with bunny ears and who's wearing pretty much like a gymnast getup. And he says, this her? Gang Orca says, yep, that's her. He says, well, come on in. And, she enters the house and he says, so, what's your name? She says, Mirko. What's yours? He says, Cobra. And she's like, oh, so you're a snake. And Deku says, that's supposed to be an insult? She's like, kinda. Deku just says, shut up and sit down. As Deku goes back over there, sits in his recliner, and Cabellios coils back up around him. Mirko sees the giant snake, and she's just like, Orca, what the hell is this? And Orca tells her, this is him. This is the kid. And she sits down and, she says, alright, kid, tell us everything about your life, and don't leave anything out. And Deku's like, alright, one more time from the top. And, as he's telling them all that, it's getting later and later. So after Deku finishes, he's like, and I'm pretty tired. So he gets up, Cabellios follows him, and he goes to his bedroom. But before he does, he says, well, if you guys want to stay here, go ahead. Just know there's only one bed, but toilet's open, couch, recliner, whatever. Just don't bother me till it's morning. And, Gang Orca, he's just like, it is a rather long commute to my place, so I'm gonna stay. And Mirko says, fine by me, I'll stay. So Mirko claims the recliner, Gang Orca's on the couch, and Deku's in his bed. Next day rolls around, and Jiro, she's heading over to where she thinks Deku's still at. And, she's heading up to his apartment room, but the owners, they stop her, and they say, hey, he knows he doesn't live here anymore. And, she's like, what? Where did he go? And we don't know. He bought a place, we guess. We don't know where he went. And, Jiro's just like, huh, well, that sucks. And they notice that she's very disappointed. And she's like, well, we can call around. We know a restaurant he goes to frequently. Maybe they know where he's at. And, they told her just wait there. They'll make a call. So they call the restaurant, and the restaurant says no, they don't know where he lives anymore either. And, they come back and they say, we're really sorry, but nobody knows where he lives anymore. And, she heads back on home. And by the time she gets there, she notices this woman is at her house and talking to her parents. So Jiro walks up and says, hey mom, hey dad. And, Mirko looks at Jiro and says, hey there, you must be Jiro, right? And she's like, yeah, how'd you know? And she's like, well, I'm one of the new teachers at UA, so I was going around to 1A's, parents and talking to them since they were the whole reason for the shift and they had a recent villain attack. And I just wanted to assure them that there would be no further cause for them to worry or anything like that. And, Jiro's parents, they're just like, we trust you with our daughter. And, Jiro kind of sees red hair on her clothing, and she's like, I'm sorry, but have you talked to Cobra Midoriya yet? And Mirko kind of tenses up, and she says, yeah, that kid. He's actually going to be a good one to teach. He's got a lot of potential. He's got a smart mouth, but he's got a lot of potential and a good heart, so he'll be fine. And Jiro's like, do you know where he lives? I need to talk to him. And she says, sorry, but I can't be giving out that type of information, especially since the kid made me swear not to tell anyone where he lived. He made it pretty obvious he wants to be left alone. And, she's just pretty much saddened by that. And she says, don't worry, school will be starting up again tomorrow. You can talk to him then. And she's like, okay. And Deku, he's still talking with Gang Orca, but this time they're at Dagobah Beach. And, they're noticing it's been cleared off. And they're kind of just like, wonder who did that. And then they see All Might. And Gang Orca's like, All Might? What are you doing here? And they notice the kid he's with. And Deku says, Bakugo, what are you doing with All Might? And, Bakugo just says, it's none of your damn business what I'm doing with All Might. And, Deku can hear All Might's thoughts. And All Might's just like, shit, are they gonna figure out what's going on? And, Deku just says, wait a minute, are you training Bakugo, All Might? And, Bakugo starts sweating. And Deku, he's actually pretty smart, so he's putting two and two together. He's like, wait a minute, you two are like master and student, aren't you? And, All Might's just like, I don't know what you're talking about. And Deku says, I can hear your thoughts, don't lie to me. And All Might says, yes, I've been training young Bakugo. but from his fight with you, it seems he got disheartened very badly. And Deku's just like, nothing to get disheartened about. He's just weak. And Bakugo's just like, you want to try saying that to my face now? As, Bakugo, he powers up. And he actually has full cowling because Bakugo's not an idiot to using a quirk. And especially something like All Might's, because yes, Bakugo is All Might's successor. And, Deku's just like, oh, I can hear your body powering up. However, it's not like you can use 100% of it. I can hear your muscle fibers and your power that you're shifting all throughout your body. And, Bakugo's just like, what are you? And Deku just tells him, I'm a dragon. I'm getting tired of repeating myself on this. And, he's just like, oh, whatever, bring it on. And so Gang Orca says, yes, go ahead, fight him. All Might's like, wait, what? And Gang Orca says, it's good for them to form a rivalry bond. And Deku says, I wouldn't consider this guy my rival in a million years. He's too weak. And Bakugo just charges at him. And, Deku just dodges and kicks him straight in the gut, sending him flying right back. And Bakugo hits the sand pretty hard, but he sets off an explosion in the sand. What he thinks will, get past Deku. And Deku's like, nope, not happening, as he grabs Bakugo's arm and slams him into the ground. And Deku tells Bakugo, you know what? I'll give you a handicap. I won't use my power. I'll only use my physical strength. And Bakugo's just like, what, you think you can beat me without using your power? And Deku says, yeah, pretty easily, actually. As he stomps Bakugo's head into the sand. And Bakugo's just, like, out. He's out, because that one stomp just knocked his lights out. All Might's actually pretty surprised. Gang Orca, he is heavily surprised, but very excited at the prospect of Deku. And Gang Orca says, see, I told you, kid, you have potential in spades. And, All Might just says, I'm gonna need to increase his training. And Deku says, level with me, All Might. Did you give him your power? And All Might's just like, what? No, that's not even possible. And Deku says, I heard from Redestro about this guy who could give people quirks and take it away. So seeing as how someone could pass their quirk on to somebody, not that hard to believe. And All Might's eyes widen because he knows exactly who Deku's talking about. And Deku's just like, you know him, don't you, All Might? And All Might says, if you already know that much, I might as well tell you. Yes, I gave my quirk to young Bakugo there. I needed a successor, and I chose him. He was the best candidate for the job. And Deku says, well, I can't blame you if you were having a time limit and had to choose someone. But still, I'm pretty sure there were better options than him. And All Might says, like who? And Deku says, you could have waited until you met everyone at UA. I'm pretty sure there would be at least one person who has your exact same values, your smile, all that. This guy, he's a loudmouthed, arrogant asshole. What could you possibly have gotten out of him? And All Might's just like, so you weren't going to insinuate you would have been a better candidate? Deku basically just tells him, I've already had to go through one experiment with learning power. I'm not fond of the aspect of having to learn another. And All Might says, that's fair enough, actually. And, Deku Deku says, yeah, anyway, Gang Orca, we gonna fight or what? And Gang Orca says, very well, come on. So, while Deku and Gang Orca are sparring, he's really just trying to hammer in martial arts to Deku. Because Deku's fighting style is really just street brawling with a bit of, hearing his opponent's movements before they actually do it. So he's been getting lucky on his movements, but Gang Orca needs to instill some actual fighting styles into Deku. So, Deku is learning martial arts from Gang Orca heavily. And while that's happening, there's another facility being used. The Heavens Research Facility has another branch office, and is back online, with a new Dragon Slayer Lacrima found, and Kaminari is getting ready for the surgery. As he lays down on the operation table and they're putting him under, they're saying, we've never tried this with a quirked person before. Are you sure you can handle this? And Kaminari says, if it'll make me stronger than Cobra Midoriya, I'm all for it. And they say, we assure you, you will gain power equal to that of his, if not even greater. And Kaminari says, do it. As they turn on the gas, he's knocked out, and they implant the Lightning Dragon Slayer Lacrima inside of him. And they stitch him back up, and he's in recovery. And, they pretty much just wait for him to wake up. And he does. And he's able to access it since he's already, having a quirk. He can access the Lightning Dragon Slayer powers pretty easily, but they're not very strong. Not yet. He'd have to train a lot more and get used to the Lacrima's feeling in his body, because it's still being registered as a foreign aspect, so every time he does use the Dragon Slayer Lacrima, he does get a little bit of feedback. But he's well enough to go to school the next day. And so they get to school, and Gang Orca introduces himself as the teacher, and everyone's just shocked that it's Gang Orca being the teacher. And he makes an announcement. Your old teacher was pretty heavy on, villainizing Cobra back there. That will not be tolerated in this class. There have been multiple heroes that had a checkered past, and yet they're heroes. You guys revere them. You admire them. So, just because you have someone with, a difficult and, wrong side of the law background doesn't make it okay to just automatically start shitting on them and telling them that they need to go kill themselves, die, or get lost. And he says, because I'm pretty sure he's proven time and time again, he's a more experienced fighter, he's stronger than you, smarter than you, and overall better than everyone in this class. And everyone has to agree with that. Deku's test results are top of the class. His combat skills, top of the class. His power, top of the class. He's their top student. And he says, and another thing, the sports festival will be beginning. And after all, none of you have actually fought villains, unlike Cobra. And he will be participating in the sports festival. Everyone hears that and they're just like, what? No, how can he? That shouldn't be allowed. And, Gang Orca says, I specifically requested it. He's a student. He should be able to participate in school events. The sports festival is highly, needed, especially for him to show off to the world that he's here. He's going to change. He can make a difference. He's not just some dog. And, everyone's just like, whatever. And, he says, alright, it's time to pick your hero names. And they're like, wait, already? He says, yeah, we're doing this early. Normally you do it after the sports festival before your internships. However, we're doing this a little bit early. I want you guys to be thinking about it. And, Deku says, I don't need to, think about it. I already know what mine's going to be. And he says, alright, go ahead. Give it to me. He says, Cobra. And he's like, you're going to use your first name? And he says, yep. Just going to go with Cobra. And, Gang Orca says, very well then, Cobra. So, everyone else's names are same as in canon. So, you don't really have to reach too hard on that one. And their training arc begins. And, Deku, he mainly just trains with Gang Orca. And, before he'd go and leave school for the day, Jiro actually, meets up with him. And Cobra, he's trying to just walk away, but Gang Orca tells him, you're going to listen to her. She's been trying to find you. You left her abruptly. You need to apologize for that, and you need to start, listening to what she has to say. And Cobra just tells him, look, I left her like that because I didn't want her being, picked on or dragged into drama for associating with me. And, Jiro says, well, you're an idiot for that because I didn't ask you to do that. Okay? I'm sorry for how I acted. I'm sorry I kept Cabellios from you, and I'm sorry I've been putting so much pressure on you, and I'm sorry for using my quirk on you. I shouldn't have done that, especially since you didn't use yours on me until I attacked you. And, Deku just tells her, don't worry about it. And she says, no, I want you to listen, like, I'm sorry for it all. Can we start over? And, Deku says, well, you gave me a second chance, so I can give you one too. And she says, thank you. And he says, no worries. Now let's both try not to screw this up. And she says, yeah, we'll try. So they start hanging out, and they start training together. Gang Orca teaches Jiro martial arts skills as well, along with using her to increase Deku's resistance to sound-based attacks. And they do get Present Mike in over there, and he starts training with them, and him and Deku start building a relationship. It's not anything really impressive or all that, but Present Mike is starting to understand where Deku was coming from and why Deku is the way that he is. So slowly, bit by bit, people are starting to accept him in. And just like that, their time limit's up, and it's time for the sports festival. So, that's where I'm going to be leaving it off. In the next episode, we will be going, just head on into the sports festival arc, and we'll also be doing the Stain arc. So, I hope you're looking forward to that. And, as always, I've been the Crown Clown, and I will see all you beautiful people again in the next episode. But, look forward to a video later today. Once I say, watch the second video that comes out today. Even though it won't be a what if, just please click on that, because it will have to do with the what ifs. So, with that out of the way, I hope to see you guys there. Peace.